questions. Obviously, again, we thank you for being here, and we'll take them on open floor and afterwards one-to-one if you like.
So, putting the chicken before the horse in the cart. In many cases, you don't have a team, or you certainly don't have a full team. One of the reasons that you're raising money is that you bring out a team. So, how would you do this? That would just give up. No team.
Well, I'd like to take that because I have a specific answer, and then you guys can follow up with that. That's not an uncommon question. I have a client now who's come up with a software technology, and it is terrific stuff, and he's got sales to prove that, growing sales. But he recognized that he can't be the technician, the manager, the salesperson, the traveling salesperson, because there's more than sales in this local area. He needs a team and he needs capital. And the way we went about that for him is to say, okay, if you're looking for money, let's develop your business plan under 2 tracks. Let's show a potential investor that you can make it without them, that you will ultimately generate sufficient cash to hire a sales team. And we had some ideas that they had not looked at. Again, Eddie, you would know the serious interim executives. We said, you ought to go and get an interim exec who can hit the ground running, who already has the contacts, can establish benchmarks, and write the job description, because you don't know the job description. Your heart knows the job description. So we can identify the difference with the capital and without the capital, and what can be done, and again, what's reasonable. So it's a great question.
Just to elaborate on that, it's very common, particularly when you're raising equity, to talk about the team you have now, and then talk about either the people, but more likely the type of people that you would bring in what stages. What, third quarter of 2013 would hire this person. Second quarter 2014 would hire that person. And then put the description, the purpose, and the way that payback's going to happen as you go forward. But proof of concept is the strongest thing you can do. So if there is something that suggests either that you're cash flow positive today, or that you have orders today, or that you have focus group people who would say, if this were presented to me at that price, I would buy in this fashion. Many, many years ago, I put together a loan request for a client that didn't have enough receivables to support the debt. Ended up getting $1 million facility primarily based on purchase orders. It was an import-export business. And the bank felt pretty good about doing it, and it was successful. The loans got payback and everything worked out fine. But we had to construct a futuristic situation that didn't exist at that time. In fact, it ultimately ended up in that bank's annual report. And it's one of the types of things that they did, because it was out of the box.
That's probably, how do I construct my team? CEO, I jokingly said that you're the chief everything officer. In many ways, you will always be that. But just as Larry alluded to, you then can also say, I may bring on, whether it's family, friends, or other clients that I know from my previous business that I worked in, that might come over, that might be a good fit, that maybe you may be doing one thing, but that person has a particular skill set that as our CEO, you can only do so much. And literally then being able to have the ability to bounce it off somebody like Larry and say, this is what I'm thinking. Not today, but if I get to this, and I get to that, and I'm thinking about this might be people I might want to bring in. They may not say no to you, but at least you kind of have a plan, because the biggest challenge is a person that's growing a brand new business usually has some initial success. And then it's the challenge of, I only have so much time. How do I break it out? And how do I handle it all? Because I may be very strong in sales, or IT, or operations, or whatever, and I need somebody else to carry that portion of our overall management structure. And that's a key component that, again, you build your board of advisors, they may have people that they know, be it somebody that's in insurance. Hey, you know what, I know of a person that might be a good fit for you. That's where you build your team, both internally and externally.
By the way, we do this with each other, with our mutual clients all the time. That one of us will ask the other, who do you know who could help that person? And one of us may have contacts that will do that sort of thing. And that's why when you talked about trusted advisor, it's not just someone to be a shoulder, but someone also be a cheerleader.
You talked about that, and I'll briefly say, I have someone that wants to start their own practice. She's currently involved in an ongoing one. She's good at what she does, but there's that whole other back office operational. She doesn't do that. You know, she's a medical professional. I said, please talk to Eddie. He can give you a plan and a clue and put you in touch with maybe an overall prior people that have done it before you. You know, the Fox Washington Carr group, literally saying, hey, this is what you can forecast for your first 3 years. Because most people say, well, I don't know how much I'm gonna make $1 million. You don't know. You know, and many times it allows you to say, I have no idea where we want to go. I know I want to go somewhere, and that's up. I don't know what's logical. What's a first step, second step, third step in order to achieve my vision?
I'm going to kind of tie those points in. Another change that we see in business plans is, again, in past, we could say at this point we're going to hire a VP of marketing or a director of sales. Today, they want to know how tall. They want to know you're going to hire somebody, but you can't tell me what their experience has to be, what their pay has to be, why they're going to come to you. It begins to show that you really know your stuff. It's my sidewalk again. You see it, you know what it's for. People who really understand their business can spell out, and that's when an Eddie or a Tim can help you find that person. Just coming to them and saying, I need a marketing director, that won't work anymore.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Tim and Larry and Eddie. I have a question, maybe for both, for three of you, but maybe specifically for Eddie. What should I expect from a local CPA? I think Tim talked about the process of hiring your banker or the bank you will be working with. Can you say the same thing as well for CPA? And I think probably Tim and Barry can help as well.
Sure. So we do this every time we meet with people who are considering hiring a CPA firm, or in some cases changing CPA firms. I think you need to look at whether or not you just need a tax return. And if you just need a tax return, then I think price is important. Price is always important no matter what else I say. It's always important. But when I say price is important for just a tax return. So I've had people come to me, and that's really all they want, and that's all they need, or at least all they think they need. And I've referred them to some firms that are appropriate for that sort of thing. What other firms offer, clearly we put ourselves in that bucket, is a whole range of helping you grow from where you are to some other place. In some cases, the growth is negative. People are in trouble and they need help working their way out of that. And we work with clients in that direction also, because all businesses go up and down, and all economies go up and down, so you have to deal with both. So in that case, you want clearly the compliance work, compliance meaning what you have to do, tax return, or it might be a financial statement for a particular purpose. It might be pre-planning what your year-end taxes will look like so that you could actually time deductions or time income, or in some cases come up with ways of saving taxes. through retirement plan design that could be preferable for the owner and not have to give away as much to the employees. There are lots of ways that planning can help save taxes. You want to find, if you are in that change mode, preferably on the way up, but in either direction, does the CPA firm have the experience and the ability to relate to you, to what your needs are, both business and personal? One of the first things that we do when we take on a new client is we sit down with them for an hour, hour and a half, and if they're single, we go over their stuff. If they're married, we try to get the couple in and talk about their life, their goals, their dreams, if there are any future generations involved or considering future generations, as well as whether the parents might be alive, and if so, would they be a drain at some point financially, or would they be an inheritance that would be a positive thing? Because you get into estate planning, you get to all sorts of these things. So, as Tim mentioned, defining what your needs are, what your goals are, is important in the selection of any, either professional or any product salesperson. And then once you've defined what it is that, defined or learn what it is that would be valuable to you. Sometimes people come in and they don't even know that these additional services for the same relationship that a tax return is involved exist. So if this is valuable to you or meets a need, then you want to select a firm that does those kinds of things. We're certainly not unique in that. There are other firms, both large and small, that do it. CPA firms fall into size categories. They're the big four. And they really are this much above the next level. There's the next tier national firms. Then there are the firms like ours that are not a two-person firm, but not a 100-person firm. You know, that deal with entrepreneurs. We also do nonprofits as well, but our primary focus is on entrepreneurs. And then there are very small practitioners who can do some of these things. But because life is so complex, it's hard to do all of them. I can answering your question.
Yeah.
Does that do it?
I use an analogy, and we'll go from there. It's, if you've ever gone sailing, your company might be the boat itself. The wind is your customers. It's the sails that are going to move you along. But if you're a sailor, you better know what is the proper sails to put out, whether it's a storm jib, because it's going to be rough sailing, or put out the mainsail and let it roll. The CPA, traditionally, and your advisors, are the people that say, look, this is what we think you need to do. Or, hey, the year ended up this way. Where do you want to take it from here? Tax-wise, income-wise. And they set your course. And each year they come back and say, you went off course. Get back on course. That's what a CPA does. Because ultimately, when you see us, usually it's A, you're starting a business, ongoing, that you got all of a sudden new growth and you're like, ooh, how am I going to get this? Or you have run under the rocks. And we'll say, who's your CPA? And did that person, then you kind of have a little, what were you thinking? Or, well, he doesn't, or she doesn't create much. Maybe you need to see somebody that does. That can be, if you will, that trusted advisor. Sometimes advisors don't want to give you the good advice. They want to give you the hard advice. And you may not like it. But it's just like when we were all sick as kids, our moms gave us medicine, whether we liked it or not, to get us well, and you hated it at the minute, but 20 minutes later you're out playing. And so that's the whole goal. You got to have CPAs that are comfortable with you.
So which relationship do you want to build first?
Yes.
Which one's better? Do you want to start off with the loan request, or are we better to start with the relationship with the banker?
The loan request, the more information I have, everyone here is creating their own novel. And the better you write it with these talented professionals, or whoever you so choose, the better I can go and say, hey, I don't have to write a thing. Here it is. It sells itself. And away it goes. It's just like your product. You had to come and formulate it, but eventually it could sell itself. But until that, it didn't get there. So we're usually the last of the Mohicans. If it comes to us and you give us, and I've been there, shoe boxes for receipts and tapes and things, and I'm like, what is this? And very successful businesses, extremely successful businesses, ongoing, 20, 30 years. How they did it, I don't know.
We know what he needs.
Right.
So typically, we'll be the ones to say, in order to get to that stage, we need to develop this, this, and this, and here's how to do it.
The other is I beg people, the first time you meet a banker, it's probably not a great idea to say, this is how much money I need. Maybe you ought to develop a little relationship. Maybe you ought to give them the opportunity to know who and what it is that you're all about. The other thing that we constantly do is we tell people that I'm really not very smart, I just bruise easily. And I learned through running companies how to develop a business plan that included what I knew would be the due diligence list of a lending institution. So they didn't have to ask. We gave them the information. You do that, they're comfortable. You do that, he's comfortable. Because remember, your CPA's reputation is involved in every document that firm puts out. They don't get a chance to put up a disclaimer, we really didn't do this. Thank you. We know you've got a long trek.
Any other questions?
I do got one question. I mean, I spoke to Baker once, and one thing that he talked about that kind of concerned me was the fact that I'm attempting to open a new market. You know, there's no real historical data. And besides doing like surveys or whatever, you know, how do I kind of meet that answer for the bank or whatever? How do I provide those details? Or
Some of it is financial, some of it is marketing based. I always tell everybody is there's know your book of business. So number one, know who your competitors are. I mean, if you, how much money is there for you to obtain in your particular enterprise? I don't know. So maybe give a generic of, hey, there are currently 5 of these other like or unlike entities within a 20-mile radius. Some basic information. That's more the business plan, really, than we have to say, this is as half-baked, it's never going to happen. The financial then side is projections, very conservative. You know, I'm going to do this, that, and as always, it's going to be money out of your pocket initially, or investors, friends and family is the old line. That's how initially most businesses start, and/or credit cards. And there's been many people very successful, but initially they had to put it all together. So the financial picture is, I think this is what I can do, because are you going to have it in a facility, or is it going to be run out of your home? These are things that, then again, Larry would kind of, I call it the Dutch uncle talk. He'll say why, and how, and when, and where, and how much, long before it gets to the bank, because that's what the bank will ask. And if you don't have the answer, well, it's better if you'd have it. The old line in the military is the more you sweat in peacetime, the less you bleed in war. And once you put up your shingle and say, I'm for business, you're at war, because somebody's going to try and steal your business. So you want to be prepared. You want to practice. You want to have things ready to go, because there'll always be a sneak attack and somebody trying to take your business.
There's very few data banks. When people come to me and they say, like you did, how do I know what the opportunity is? First of all, you do determine if there's competition. Sometimes, particularly if you're not going to be competing, you can go out of the area and just call people out of the blue. Hi, my name is, and I'm interested in opening up a facility comparable to what you're doing. I'm not a competitor. I'm in Virginia or Maryland. You're in California. You're not a chain. And people will be very forthcoming in giving you information on what it was that they faced and how, and they will allow that for attribution. you're beginning to give the bank great comfort now when you say, okay, there is no competition here, or there's competition everywhere. No, 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 look, I talked to the one like me in California, the two like me in New York, the one in Montana, and they all started just like me. There's nothing like what I do. Well, then how do I know you'll get any business? Well, because now we can establish this percent of the population is interested in this kind of facility or this type of activity. I have in my catchment area 1 million people, percent times that equals the maximum opportunity. Now I'm going to market, this is what I'm going to grab. These are the things we're going to do. So it's always kind of fun, but yes, you do have to establish that market opportunity. And you have to do it for yourself too. You shouldn't go into business unless you have a reasonable belief that it will be successful. Simply saying I'm going to work hard is not good enough.
And then having some proof of concept in at least a statistical sample or some sort of sample of people you've approached who would say, yeah, we'll actually do hire you, or, you know, with a little bit of outreach that you can prove that this is desirable for people to use what you provide at a certain price.
That's why franchises are like entrepreneurial, like you kind of half structures there and proof of concept, and the other half is your ability to stick to ivity, as my mom used to say, and you get it done, you know, because potentially you're opening up a Chipotle and there's no Chipotle in this area, and you know the proof of concept somewhere is good, so you hustle. Not no guarantee that it's going to happen, but for the most part you have some kind of backstops. But when it's all you, then you really need do your homework and, you know, do the what ifs. What if I do it this way? And what if I do it? You may find out that whatever you think you want to do, it's just not going to fly. But you tweak it, you take it another way.
Thank you.
You know, I agree with everything the three of you have been saying. As Eddie knows the work that I've done over the years. Always found, whether it's a lender or an investor, when you come down through everything you've gone through here, the very last question they ask is, now tell me how you can sell it. Because the management, the team, the paperwork, the projections are all great, but that's the last part. They want proof. You've got to convince them that you can sell it.
Good point.
I think that would lean toward your world.
Yes.
I'm their background were not business entrepreneurs in any way, shape, or form. Fair to say?
Very fair.
They, like yourself, you're saying, how am I going to get it done? They've pretty much done it. They've run into a couple blind alleys, but have kept moving forward through connections and hustle. And it is somewhat, you can succeed, but the percentages are, you're better to have some type of a modus operandi, a mission statement, a goal, a plan.
Any other questions?
We thank you for coming.
I want you to know that this is a good audience. We appreciate your questions and we appreciate your sharing with us. Hope it was some benefit to you. If any of you have any questions for any of us individually, none of us charge us to talk about whether there's a fit, or even if there's no interest in a fit. You just have a question. The fact that you took time out of your day to come today is enough for me. So you have my information, and I think Larry and Tim have cards to do that also. So that, just take advantage of this resource to call with any question at all. And it's a pleasure to meet you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.